what I'm trying to establish here is the extent to which you have factored the improvement in performance so that there's higher performance, and also performance at efficient levels, because that's what the regulator needs. And this gives us an opportunity as a regulator to make sure that the licensee gets to that point. And now we've got a period of 3 years within which Eskom has to demonstrate to the energy regulator that it is working towards reaching that level of efficiency. How and where in the application are you showing that? First of all, I even asked for the maintenance plan so that we can be able to see from the maintenance plan the fact that you are talking about further maintenance that is required, the execution of that maintenance, the scoping of maintenance, and the team will do that. Then we have to also see the alignment with the production plan for the next 3 years, so that we can be able to also see how you are going to reach those levels of the EAF, that will get Eskom to the target of 75% efficiency and even more. I mean, you stated other, power stations that are operating at about 80% EAF. So how do you get the others to operate at that, so that when we then compensate Eskom for the work that it has to do, the generation, then we know that we're compensating at the level of efficiency? Where is that in the application, so that we can be in a position to direct Eskom and ensure that we hold Eskom accountable to the commitment Eskom makes in terms of the performance and efficiency? Thank you.
Chair, thank you. So I think what I would do is definitely through our coordinator ensure that the committee gets the copy of the operational recovery plan. And I think in that you'll see how we've broken out the components around the people, the plant and processes, and as approved by the board, us reaching 70% by April. I think what we have to definitely do is then say, beyond this, how do we aspire to the 75%? So that's work to be done. Definitely would give you copies of the generation maintenance plan, but I believe Eskom will give you the comprehensive maintenance plan. And then in terms of the production plan, we'll definitely make that available. With regards to where it is, let me consult with the team, and then we'll provide a response.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to follow up from Eric, just to clarify that as part of the submission requirements, we do have to submit a production plan for a 10-year period. And in terms of the compliance that has been done, Eric is, too sophisticated to know all these details. So we are the workers, and we have done so. And then the maintenance plan has also a detailed at a power station level has also been submitted. And I must point out that this is part of the confidential information that has been submitted, so it's not publicly available. And then as well as the operational recovery plan that has been shared with NERSA, but again, it is an evolving plan, and further details will be provided. And just to also, as Eric has indicated, that there are further work. This is an ongoing process as far as improving the generation performance, and there has been short-term decisions and processes that have been undertaken, and we do see the result of that. But obviously there is further long-term decisions that need to be made, and a lot of intensive work needs to be undertaken, because there are balancing factors and tough decisions to be made, and this also has to consider the environmental requirements, etc. So that work, once it is available, we would make sure that is shared with NERSA. Now, coming to the consultation, Chair, just to point out in terms of the Municipal Finance Management Act, before we even submit an application, we have to consult with SALGA and National Treasury, and that was done, and that input has been included in the final submission. Obviously, this is a long process. We've started with this more than a year ago, and this was done earlier to be able to meet the particular deadlines. And then in addition to that, we have had quite a lot, after NERSA has published in September, we have had intensive discussions with various customer groupings, and that includes SALGA again, as well as the AMEU, which is the Amalgamation of Municipal Electricity Utilities, as well as the Energy Intensive User Group, the Business Unity South Africa, Business Leadership South Africa, SACI, which is some business association, I don't even know their name, sorry, what they stand for, various government departments, environmental groupings. We've put them all together and had a session with them. We've met with the agricultural sector. We did try to meet with the community sectors, but unfortunately we were not successful in doing that. And to the question, I think that Ms. Samani asked as far as the being able to communicate through various newspapers, etc. We do at a regional level also consult with the various customer groupings. However, it may not have reached certain members of the public because they may not be ESCOM customers, they might be municipal customers. But I think that's an important point, and we note that point for future. But we also are dependent on NERSA to communicate, as far as the public hearings are concerned. But I do agree that is something where there is a potential to make sure that we are more thorough as far as further communication is concerned. And then I'm just going to deal with the matter of the various questions related to sales that have been raised. And I would like to start with Ms. Samani's question, is that if there is an increase in sales, will we be able to cope with it? And we would say that as ESCOM, we prefer that there be an increase in sales. And as has been illustrated by the group CFO, that there has been in 2025, for example, the independent power producers does not produce as was expected by the NERSA decision for 2025, and there were at least 14 more terawatt hours that had to be provided by ESCOM generators, mainly the coal-fired power stations. So I think we have to gear ourselves up, and therefore in our sales forecast for those particular years, we do have that cone of uncertainty with both an up and a downside, and definitely we will in our plans be able to deal with that as well. However, coming back to what actually drives the sales forecast, we wish that we could have more control, and we do know that we have some control, and one area was to minimize load shedding, and I think that has been shown to be the case, and we are making progress as far as that is concerned. So if we minimize load shedding, we do increase our sales. However, overall, when we look at what are the key drivers for sales, it is the economic factors, and it is dependent on the economy of the country. It would depend on the commodity markets. It would depend on the global economy as well. It would also depend on other factors that particular industries would want to use to be able to invest in the country, and that would include, for example, the transport costs, the logistics costs, the labor costs, the ease to do business in South Africa, etc. So those economic factors is basically, in our understanding, is what drives the sales. And what ESCOM does is that it takes into consideration what all these economic factors are, and then ask the relevant questions, especially to the large consumer groups, large customers, and then be able to determine what the sales forecast is going to be. So we are a bit in a responsive kind of a situation, but we wish that, and also it is iterative, as the GS Group CFO has mentioned, that if Eskom is continuing to load shed, then it does drive investment away as well. So in that way, that is the one area that can be addressed and is being addressed as best as possible. So I think, and then a question was asked about embedded generation. When Eskom does its sales forecasting, it does consider what the prognosis, and our system operator does have some idea of where are the embedded generations, etc. And we do take that into consideration when we do our sales forecast. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair, if you allow me briefly, my colleagues have touched most of this. I just want to clarify the issue that was raised by Ndatem Kize about the cost of debt in Eskom that is rising and relative to the return on assets. I think, firstly, why the cost of debt in Eskom has been rising. The term of debt in Eskom is generally low. It's long term, historically. So when Eskom had good times, we had the benefit of securing long-term debt. As Eskom's credit deteriorated over the years, the tenure got shorter and the money became more expensive. Up until things came to a head 2-3 years ago, when Eskom agreed with the shareholder into a debt relief package where, in accordance with that agreement, Eskom was not borrowing anymore. So what you are seeing now is the passage of time, that the cheap old debt is maturing and the more expensive newer debt is what is getting more and more left in the books now. But with that said, Ndatem Kize would know that the cost of debt should be matched at the very least with the rate of return on assets, because otherwise you are not running a viable business. And I think that was the point of the slide there, to say there should be closer proximity between the two. Thanks, Chair.
The one question that we didn't address from our notes and the team, the issue about the employee costs and the skills that are required, and why is staff complement going up. Yes, Chair, it's got a lot to do with the technical staff that's required in the business. But again, through this hearings, we'll give you more detail on that technical staff that's required, and we'll address that, Chair. And then we have acknowledged there's a lot of submissions that need to come back, as well as further inputs presented during these hearings. Chair, obviously a key component, like you've mentioned, is the whole production plan. Over and above that we submitted, we will also present around the production plan and what gets taken into account. The only point I want to make on the 75% EF, Chair, yes, correct, we support you must strive for even better performance. But again, it does take time when you invest in these assets in terms of maintenance. This takes a while. You don't see the benefits immediately. Like the recovery we've seen, we started 2 years ago. Now we're starting to see the benefits. So again, we take note of that question, and during the course we will come back to say exactly, if you get this, what does it mean in terms of reaching 75%. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. There are some follow-up questions. We've got some questions also from the members of the public. But at this point in time, I would like to give Mr. Pukula an opportunity for follow-up questions.
Thank you, Chair. The response on the primary energy costs is not a satisfactory response. For starters, when you look at your application, the increase is on the usage, not on the future fuel costs, which is what you would have on page 75 of your application when you go to the usage or the mines and you paying into the mines. The second one is which is the second reason you've given for your higher primary energy costs, is your gas and oil usage. When you restart and start the plants, it is not an efficient number. 3 years ago, that number was 2 billion rand, and now you've ramped it up to 8 billion rand. So the answer given that it's the diesel cost is not sufficient in my view. And secondly, when you are talking about the improvements in your performance of the plant, then that number must reduce. It can't keep increasing if we're talking the reduction of that. So if you wouldn't have the answers now, I think you need to provide this. But in your application, page 75 doesn't support what was given. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bukula. Mr. Kasim, if you're not gonna be able to provide the sufficient responses to those, we would invite you to then give us the information in the couple of days, or at least before we leave Cape Town, because I'm sure the residents here would like to hear what your response is. So you can provide it tomorrow when you do your remarks, if you don't have the responses now.
Chair will come back with the closing tomorrow on that specific one.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Mkhize?
Thanks, Chairperson. Thanks for the responses, noting that you are still going to supplement them further. But on the issues of the application itself, I appeal for some consistency. Just to go to the application, recalibrate it, the numbers from the point of view that you can't talk of a 70%, even a 70% where you increase the EAF, but other things that are not actually in sync with the improved EAF are still there. Those costs are still there, like the fuel cost, which talks to more frequent shutdown. So there's something is amiss in terms of all these elements talking to one another. And then lastly, something that you need to also consider is the possibility of smoothing of the tariff, because we're looking at 3 years, just to get your view. You don't have to respond now, but I think that in your subsequent presentation, please talk to that as well. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Mr. Kasim, I'm just going to paraphrase just to indicate the essence of some of the questions that we received from the members of the public. So really the first issue that they are emphasizing on is the extent of the increase in terms of affordability from their side, to say that the increase of they say 40% is 36% is not efficient, and that it will impact the poorest of the poor. So I think that is the first issue, and I think you probably need to also address the issue of affordability in writing in the coming few days. So the other question really that they are concerned about is the fact that electricity sales are coming down. So they are talking about why are they coming down. So that's the concern, and talking about other language here, and then also talking about the fact that ESCOM is targeting the vulnerable consumers. Why using private securities that are asking for millions of rands instead of using the locals? So those are the main questions, right? Okay, all right. So the other questions are really about, I think it's issues of infrastructure, really about the new build, the fact that it has delayed, and now you want to recover, the cost overruns of the delays in the new build from the consumers. So that is really the question that is being asked. So if you can, these are all of the concerns really from stakeholders. I don't know whether you want to do your sort of conclusion now. Thank you.
Chair, we can address some of those questions in tomorrow's closing if that's fine.
All right, thank you very much, ESCOM, for your presentation, and we look forward really to further information in the couple of days where you address all of the questions that have been asked. Thank you very much. We've taken a long time, as I indicated, that we needed ESCOM to respond to all of the questions so that you can get better clarification, but I think that we are going to move quite faster with the presenters that are now coming through. The next presenter that we have is Liziwe McDade and Lisama Kaula from the Green Connection. Good morning. I would like to swear you in. Just want to find out if you have any objection in taking an oath.
Not at all, and I do swear to tell the truth.
All right. May you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare, if you open it, don't close it so that God can actually see that right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to this panel today is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right, thank you very much. Please state your name and your portfolio at Green Connection.
Liziwe McDade, the strategic lead at the Green Connection.
Thank you very much. Your colleague, if you may step forward. Okay, may you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you. May you please state your name and your designation at Green Connection?
Lisa Makala, the Advocacy Officer.
All right, thank you very much. You may start with your presentation, ma'am.
We're waiting for Gerald at the back because that's not us on the screen. And we would appeal to the chair not to let ESCOM steal our time, so it must start from when we're organized.
I think I'm starting. Okay, can we remove this? Okay. Greetings to the House at large and to our chairperson. So today I will just briefly do an introduction of who we are, and then Liziwe McDade is going to go into further details on our submission today. The Green Connection is a registered non-governmental organization that focuses on environmental and social justice, and we work towards improving socio-economic growth and conservation in South Africa. We work with coastal communities around the coast of South Africa, mostly from marginalized communities. And today we are here to make our submission on the MYPD6, and we basically reject ESCOM's latest tariff application as we believe that it's not being in the public interest. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
How do we minimize this? Okay. So firstly, just looking into environmental obligations by NEMA, National Environmental Management Act, we believe that NESA is bound by Section 2 principles, and we submit the following in making sure that it's considered when they are making a decision out of today's submission. Section 4.E highlights that there's a responsibility for environmental health, safety consequences of a policy, program, project, product, process, service, or activity exists throughout its life cycle. Section 4.I speaks to the social, economic, and environmental impact of activities, including disadvantages and benefits, must be considered, assessed, and evaluated, and decisions must be appropriate in the light of such consideration and assessment. Section 4K speaks that decisions must be taken in an open and transparent manner, and access to information must be provided in accordance to and within the law. Section 4.A speaks to that the pollution and degradation of the environment are avoided, or where they cannot be altogether avoided, are minimized and remedied.
Okay, guys,
Next slide, please.
we're not sure how this thing is working, but it's not moving to the next slide when we want it. Okay. All right. I think it's me now. Thanks very much. So I think maybe I want to start with saying this is not the first time I've been here, and it's not the first time I've heard Eskom consistently over a decade or more arrive and say they need more money, but without providing more electricity. So this is a problem. We also think that what we're seeing here is that South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world, and Stats SA reckons that by 2030, 13.4 million South Africans will be living below the poverty line. So on what basis do you think that people can afford ever increasing electricity tariffs? So for us, we would say to NERSA is, on what basis do they think that people can afford? Now, I did hear Eskom say they didn't really consult with communities, but in their application they say that even if the price of electricity goes up, the demand won't fall for residential customers, and we would question where that comes from, and maybe NERSA needs to ask for more detail as to how do they come to that conclusion, and we would urge NERSA to rather listen to people's lived experiences. So the other thing that we didn't hear at all today, and I searched the documents and maybe I missed one, but I didn't hear the word climate change. It's like we're living in a world that climate change doesn't exist. So for me, the entire application still premises itself on coal, and there's no transition plan of how Eskom is moving away from coal in this application, and that to us has a number of implications. Okay guys, next slide please. Please. This thing is not doing what it's supposed to.
NERSA colleagues, you are really delaying us with this IT thing.
Yeah, I was trying that, but look, nothing's happening. Okay. If that thing comes up, get rid of it, please, from your side, because you can't see. Thanks, thank you. Thank you. So this is where I just wanted to highlight which bits of the tariff are we comparing, and I had to bring some props, because apples are not oranges. And what this does, and what we've heard Eskom say, is that independent power producers, and by that implication it seems to be renewables, are somehow more expensive. But when we look at the tariff, and I've sort of highlighted there, all the things in the red blocks are costs associated with coal, with the existing fleet, coal and nuclear. And only the IPP's costs are related to the renewables, because you know, the carbon tax, the environmental levy, that is not allocated to renewables. Within the IPPs thing, there's also some coal or some gas, but I mean, this was very general. So just back of the envelope, it seems to me that we are not comparing apples and oranges here. Or rather we are. We are saying they're the same, and they're not. So I think that NERSA needs to interrogate what is the real costs comparisons. And we did a back of the envelope calculation, and it looks like renewables are not that much more expensive than coal when you put everything in, and especially when you look at the carbon tax, which jumps in 2027. Yeah, so, okay, wait, which one do I have to use now? That one. Okay. So then when we look at Eskom's response to the carbon tax, they're complaining. But they've known about the carbon tax since 2007, when that paper was produced, the discussion paper 2010. This is not something new. So this is something that Eskom has known about and should have made a plan about. And it hasn't. And now it's saying, well, we've got this carbon tax that we're going to have to add, and you guys are going to have to pay for it. Why? So just to use my apples and oranges again, is if apples go up in price in the supermarket, you buy oranges, or you buy something else. But you don't carry on buying apples when the price goes up. But Eskom is expecting us to carry on buying the apples, even if the price is going through the roof. So for me, and they are not saying we're going to change we're going to now stop producing apples, or we're going to do a different kind of apple. They're just saying we're going to carry on and you guys are going to pay. And what we haven't seen is the CBAM, the border tax. So Eskom is looking for more sales, but based on coal, and what is going to happen when their exports now get hit with the CBAM. Then the issue around external, I'm not going to say much about this, but Green Connection is supporting Groundworks submission. I think you'll hear more about that. But basically, why is it that the health costs of people living around the coal-fired power stations are somehow not as important, so that we have this constant application to not do the mitigation about emissions? We just carry on saying it's too expensive, so people's health is too expensive, but we're going to still carry on increasing the price of electricity and basically supplying less people. So, yeah, and then this was just a couple of things around the closing of coal-fired power stations, so we've heard a lot about extending them, and extending them is going to be more costly because now there's more maintenance when you've got an old machine, and we're not really seeing the acknowledgement that the renewable energy costs are decreasing. So I just don't want to take too much time. Yeah, so then basically we're not supporting the MYPD, but I also just wanted to highlight, I think at some point in the application, Eskom talks to having 30,000 megawatts of capacity. These IPP presentations talk to 8,000 megawatts of the IPP renewables, plus another 2,000 or 1,500 storage, which is either in construction or online. So that's like 10,000, so that's a third of what Eskom has. And then we talk to, so I heard, interestingly, they say they're taking account of the rooftop PV, but I don't see how. And it looks like, just on Googling it, that there's about 5,000 megawatts of rooftop in South Africa at the moment. Now, this doesn't necessarily all just translate directly, but it seems to me that there's not really anything that we're hearing in the Eskom application which is addressing that. And then my last comment on this is, the special pricing agreements, to me, are smoke and mirrors, because Eskom then appears to be gaining sales, but because it's done at a discount, they're not gaining money. So then they can potentially say, oh yeah, we're doing well, we're getting more customers, but oops, we don't have enough revenue. So now we're coming back to those people who are stuck with Eskom to ask them for more money and more money. So we really don't believe that this system of constantly pouring money into the black hole of Eskom is really in the public interest. We do understand that Eskom has its rules that it applies by, and that NERSA has its rules by way it makes decisions. But I used to come here with 30, 40 pages of submission. Now I come with 10 pages, because I know everything I say, everyone might agree with, but then we still get a tariff increase. So we have also written to the Minister of Energy and Electricity to say we need a whole restructuring of this system, because this is not sustainable. Eskom is constantly being told it's in a death spiral. It actually doesn't seem to be able to get out of where it is at the moment. And in the meantime, the real people who count aren't able to afford electricity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You've taken just a little more than 10 minutes, no, but also I had to give you that 2 extra minutes because you got delayed by the IT system. Thank you for the presentation. I would like to check if the members have any questions from our side, the panel members. Fine. Okay, Mr. Mkhize has one question.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks for the presentation. From my side, it's not necessarily a question, but just to urge you to say that as a regulator, we need to work according to the legal prescripts. If we fail, then we get direct to courts, and would appreciate if you can give your input, especially on those perimeters that are set for us for us to play this game within. I think that would be appreciated both with ourselves and the policymaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I respond?
Yes, you.
So yes, I can. I think what we've tried to say is that a lot of the costs that are being asked for are things that Eskom could have predicted, and therefore that's not efficient or prudent if you knew what was coming and you do nothing. So that's where we try to put it, but we will respond with a bit more in terms of tariffs. I also want to say, please don't ask us to comment on things in December. Please, can you change that deadline, because we can't do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Green Connection team for your presentation. I would like to now move on and call upon Salga, Mr. Ndlandlangidi, to deliver your presentation. Sawubona, Mr. Ngidi. Okay. All right. Do you have any objections in taking the oath?
No, Chair.
All right. Thank you. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to this panel today is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and your designation at SALGA.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the panel, to the communities in the room. My name is Ndlandlangidi. I'm the head of energy and electricity in SALGA.
All right, thank you very much. You may want to adjust your mic there so that we can hear you clearly as you are going to do your presentation. All right, you may take us through your presentation. Your time starts now at 11:25. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to try to move quickly because we've got 10 minutes. So, Chair, maybe in my opening statements, I just want to communicate that as SALGA, this time today, I'm not going to present a technical presentation. We made a submission which has some technical detail. And, when we prepared this presentation, we thought maybe this is, what is wrong with all of this. We've been too technical and confusing the communities. And if you look at this room, going back 10 years, we've been doing this thing for quite some time. This room used to be filled with industry people when you have public hearing. And look at today, I think more than 70% is communities. So it might be because they are losing faith in the system. I'm not sure. It might be a wrong assumption, but I think it must tell us something, that communities are actually, no longer, having that trust in the system, and we need to really gain that trust back from the communities. So I'm going to just go quickly to my presentation and not present what you already have seen or what you already know. This is about the ESCOM application. Problem statements, I think it's something that you're going to hear for the next week or so. There's 6 issues that are quite, critical that the sector is the whole sector is going through. I'm not sure why it's moving so fast. So the sector right now is going through quite a few things, and it's really fractured. And you add that an economy that is not performing at all, and you add that to employment. This economy is losing jobs than creating them. So there is a lot that is wrong about the system, and ESCOM has a dilemma, because as a country we need ESCOM to be sustainable. We need ESCOM to supply us with secured supply, and at the same time also we expect ESCOM to offer affordable electricity, because that is in the cornerstone of the electricity pricing policy. It talks to the sustainability, it talks to the security of supply, that it talks to affordability. But I think right now what is having, the balance is not there in the triangle. The triangle of the cornerstones of the electricity pricing policy is not balanced, because the affordability part is what is not, really being looked at this point. And we really need to do something about it. It's a problem, as municipalities will be expected also to offset these tariffs, these increases to the customer. And it's going to be tough for us to also explain and make it make sense to them. So we really need to do things a little bit different this time around. If you look at this slide, it's showing you exactly what's wrong with the current situation. There's that article from Daily Investor that talked about 472% increase since 2009. That's how our prices have been increasing. And look at the economy next to that. It's not growing. It's below 1%, 0 point something. It's not doing anything. And there is 90% being owed by municipalities to ESCOM. There's 347 billion that is owed by people to municipalities. I know that question is going to come later. What are you going to do with, the money that you owe ESCOM? And we also ask the same question. So where do we get the 347 billion that ESCOM is owing us? Because all of it is connected in the system. And we're going to be asked to go and ask people why are they not paying. And people are going to say, with what money? Because we don't have it. So this is a situation, it's a vicious circle that all of us are in. Right now, as the sector, we're trying to go towards having cost-reflective tariffs because it's something that we have to do. But in order to balance that, also we have to look at how our economy is performing. Is it going to really take, these increases that might come as a result of cost reflectivity? The 36% that ESCOM is applying for, part of it also is moving towards being cost reflective, which is something that all of us are supposed to do. But we have a dilemma. We are a country that is a third world country, right? A country which has had cheap electricity for a while. But need to go global because we want to introduce clean energy and all these other sources of energy. But there is a bit of a dilemma about that because we have policies that want to make sure that we move towards, having prices that are recognized or that are in par with the global community. But at the same time, our buying power as people is not actually talking towards our policies want us to, or where our policies want us to go. So
your slides are not moving, Mr. Ngidi. I'm worried you are left with 4 minutes. Okay.
It's not a problem. I've said quite a lot that is in the slides.
Okay.
So let me just go straight to the position. I already talked to that. The cornerstones of the pricing policy. You look at security of supply. If we are technical about the ESCOM, application, it's a tick, yes. Sustainability of the utility, that's what they're trying to do, yes. So it all goes along the lines of the electricity pricing policy, but there's that leg on the other side that we are not really addressing, and we haven't been for a while. The affordability issues on electricity is becoming a huge issue for South Africa. So what is our position? And I'm almost done, Chair. So basically, this 36.1% increase is a hard pill to swallow. We did go on a consultation process with ESCOM, and obviously we did go, have robust engagements. Those robust engagements did get responses from ESCOM on the technical side of things, but it doesn't necessarily mean we said we are accepting the 36.1% increase. So there's affordability issues here, and then I already talked to the cost-reflective tariffs. The municipalities that are already doing cost of supply studies, some of these tariffs that are coming out of these studies are saying possibly we might need to double or triple the price in order for us to be cost reflective. So that's another dilemma or another conundrum that we might be going towards. When ESCOM is giving this increase, the municipalities are going to expect an increase to offset to the customer, but at the same time the AfriForum is on our neck. They want us to go cost reflective, and those cost of supply studies are saying we might need to actually triple or double the prices. So we really need to go back to having the compact with the communities to make them understand why do we need to increase these prices, and to make them understand what can we do to make sure that these increases don't create a shock in the system, because we've got these social issues that are realities that are not going anywhere. So yeah, I think going towards the way forward, I think, Chair, we need to make sure that as government and the entire industry, we really have a dialogue about how do we phase in these increases. They are needed. ESCOM needs to be sustainable, but the manner in which they are coming is going to create quite a big problem for us. So we need to discuss together with ESCOM, government, NESA, how can we make sure that we bring this sustainability that ESCOM needs, but also we don't really bankrupt our people. So there's a balance that we need to strike here. And I think it's very important because you can see, what you saw outside when we are getting in, people are actually up in arms already. They don't want this increase. But ESCOM has been presenting here all the facts that they need this increase. And as much as they need this, but we don't believe that we really need to be going, on that, large increase at this point in time, especially with all these challenges that we are having as a country. So I think we really need to have a dialogue on this. Let's try to simultaneously harmonize the cost reflectivity and affordability to enable ESCOM and municipalities to still get their prudent and efficient cost reflective tariffs where end users can still afford to pay. Also, it's also getting apparent that there is a need for innovative models that include some form of subsidies, obviously. Right now, we have 50 kilowatt hours on free basic electricity. we are not even administering it that well as municipalities. But also, it's not enough. 50 kilowatt hours is not enough. We need to be discussing as a sector also what kind of models can create subsidies that gives people, better and sustainable energy packages, so that we don't always have this dialogue about price increases. Also, let's fast track the development of the tariff framework for the sector, because still, as municipalities, we are regulated differently than ESCOM when it comes to the tariffs, and we understand the reality of that, so we need to fast track that. And I think some of the things that are in the court order, that we must have this framework and also must do cost of supply studies. So there's a court order that is hanging on us as NESA, as SALGA, and as the municipalities as well. So what we've seen also, I'm not going to talk about conducting a study on energy market prices, because I think no one knows how that might affect the price increases. But at some point in time, someone needs to actually do that kind of study, so that we know what we are getting into with this market. But in our studies that we've done, our assessments of our other countries in Africa, I think they are ahead in terms of going cost reflective. They are ahead in terms of going cost reflective. Most of them has cost reflective prices. But what does that result to? It drops the access. Why? Because when you go cost reflective quickly, you actually sharpen the increase of the prices and you drop people from the grid. But we know in South Africa, people don't want to drop from the grid even though they can't pay. They want to stay in the grid, which means what they're going to do? They're going to steal electricity. So that's where we're going. And I'm not exacerbating it, or I'm not trying to.
Your time is up, Mr. Ng.
Thank you.
Please try to wrap up.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wrapping up quickly now. So I think you got the gist of what we're trying to say today. We didn't want to be technical, because I think we've been confusing people with these technicalities for years. I think we are faced with realities, social realities in this country. We have to have that dialogue that ensures that people respond positively to what we're trying to do, because this is necessary, but let's find a better way to do it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngidi, for your presentation. Let me check if members of the panel have any questions for Mr. Ngidi. Any questions from the members of the panel? Mr. Mane, any questions from you? Ms. Sitole?
Just one, Chair, in terms of really getting clarity or getting more clarity from Mr. Ngidi, you indicated that there is a need to balance the interest of the utility, which is ESCOM, and that of consumers. And what is the proposal that SALGA is making in terms of wanting the regulator to consider their position? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Advocate Sitole. Mr. Mkize, any question?
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to Mr. Ngidi for the presentation. I'm partly covered by my colleague, but I also like to say to Mr. Ngidi, if Lomuga you can check as to the contribution to the 9 payment by the municipalities themselves, and that which then translates into loss of sales by ESCOM. If you can just look at that, because we all stay in some municipality, and we all know of the challenges around that. And lastly, just to appeal that when the NERSA community outreach team, I think they have seen them at the back there of we and them, if they engage, if please you can work on the municipalities being able to cooperate with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pugol. Any comment, Mr. Ngidi?
Thank you very much, Chair. Maybe let me start with the last question. I'm going to emphasize again on the realities and the structural problems that we have in this country. In a way, municipalities are actually collectors of ESCOM, basically. they are collectors of ESCOM, and they buy about almost 50% of electricity to ESCOM, which means they collect 50% of the ESCOM revenue on ESCOM's behalf. So what does that mean? ESCOM doesn't really have the realities that municipalities have. They might have in some areas, but not in the margin where municipalities are. Municipalities are in the forefront of all these social and economic issues. So when municipalities are not able to collect, and they are collecting on behalf of ESCOM, let's actually try to prioritize where problems are and not really focus on, we can't let ESCOM fail. Let's bail out ESCOM. But we are not dealing with the issues in the grassroots, in the municipalities, because those issues are affecting what happens in ESCOM, because we are collecting on behalf of ESCOM. In terms of balancing the interest, the proposal, Chairperson, I think one is already in your mandate as NESA. Your prudency test needs to be cutthroat on this one. Anything that is untoward in the application in terms of the prudency test, I think the regulator needs to be really cutthroat. But over and above that, I am suggesting and recommending as SALGA that we need to have a dialogue about how do we really, what's the approach that we're going to use to get our tariffs cost effective while we are dealing with the issues of unaffordability, because we need to find a way to strike a balance. I don't have the solutions, but I'm saying let's have that discussion as government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mkis?
Thanks. Remains unanswered, because I don't want to say I'm squeezing the blood out of you here, but that there's a need for a response, really. The municipalities' inefficiencies resulting in lower sales for ESCOM. People, I mean, we all are in some municipality. I'm also a community member. I work extensively with communities in my other life. And please, if you can look at that and respond conclusively by way of writing to us. And then I've got another question here coming from the member of the public. I open the quote. What are you doing in terms of incompetent and corrupt deployed cadres? Do you have Cuban engineers? Close quote. Thank you.
Very briefly, Mr. Ngiti, we're going to take a break at some point for lunch. Do you have anything to say?
No, from the community, unfortunately, my pay grade doesn't allow for me to,
all right, thank you very
answer
much.
that question.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, we're now moving on and to the fifth presenter, and that is group presentation by the members of the public. I have the names of was it Joan Asia, Maria Peterson, Marilda Mutibi, and N. October. Just hold on, so that is it just the two of you, or we're still expecting others to come? About five. I've got five here.
One isn't here this morning.
Four. Okay. All right. They will let me know then, because if all of you are going to speak, then I have to make sure that I swear you in, all of you. You must be sworn in. Okay. May I please start with you, ma'am? If you can step forward, please.
Madam Chair, my name is Lydia, and
no, just hold on, ma'am, and
sorry.
I will direct you what to do. Okay. Can you please raise your right hand?
I'm not presenting now, Chair. I'm presenting later. I just want to introduce the ladies here that were not part of the program, but I've spoke to Mr. Mubanda, and he gladly assisted with other members filling in those.
I'm going to allow them to present, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I talk to them now?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. May you please raise your right hand, ma'am? you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name.
My name is
for the
John
record.
Asia, and I'm from the Rocklands community.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you give another one the opportunity? Please adjust the mic.
Okay.
All right, may you please raise your right hand, ma'am? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give is this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right, may you please state your name and the community that you are representing today?
I'm Meralda Musibi, and I'm from Guguleton, Section 3.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. May you please raise your right hand, Mama? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel today is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
I didn't get that, ma'am.
I do.
All right, thank you. May you state, please, your name, Mama?
My name is Joyce Malibu. I'm from Guguletu.
From Cooks. All right. Thank you. Molo, Mama?
Molo sis.
Molo, ma. Sithetha isiNgesi, ma.
Yasithetha nesiXhosa nesingesi ngiyasithetha.
NesiNgesi. All right, ma. Ma, do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name.
My name is Nolutando Mazri from Guguletu.
From Cooks. All right. Thank you very much. You may please start with your presentations.
Good morning, Madam Chair, the panel, and the esteemed audience. My name is John Asia, and I'm from Rocklands, Spain, where unemployment, gangsterism, drug abuse is very rife. I'm speaking on myself this morning. The tariff increase is so high, and it will negatively affect all of us. It's already a burden on the families, the community, and on the economy. Electricity is an essential need. It's not a want, and it's not a luxury. So when I get my little pension, I must turn the funds around and tell myself, am I going to buy food or am I going to buy electricity? And I've got my 2 grandchildren living with me, and they're at school, so they need the electricity to do their studies and the assignments and tests and things. When you get to this age, at first I was on 1 tablet before, but when I became a pensioner, I'm on 3. They added another 2. So now I must now think, with this little money I also have, how am I going to pay for my medication that I need? We have also, as a family, decided we opted to use gas, which is cheaper, more dangerous, and very unhealthy at times. We switch off the geyser, we put water in the pot on the stove so that we can bath. So here I humbly request on NERSA to reconsider ESCOM's proposal, as increased tariff will escalate our struggles, and thus it will make us impossible to choose between feeding the family and keeping the lights on. For the families such as mine and others, every increase means less food, more stress, and innumerable choices. We cannot afford this change. I thank you, the panel, for affording us or me the opportunity to speak and share our experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May we allow the next one, please? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know if it's now it's not yet afternoon. I'm first just gonna read something that somebody asked me to also read, but I'm also speaking. I'm from U3A, University of the Third Age, and we have an organization of senior people that, we come together, do courses and chat and everything that senior people do. So yeah, I'm also talking for some of them. I'm just first gonna read this that someone, Mr. H. Peters, asked me to read. He said South Africa is at a crossroads with rising electricity burdening consumers. It has placed pressure on households' budgets where people would rather go without electricity than not buying food. The cost of electricity has been unaffordable. If there's no intervention by all stakeholders to cut down the cost of electricity and institute an affordable model, there is bound to be trouble, as what happened in Lavender Hill Township, where residents closed off the probably entry to the area. Message to NASA, ESCOM and the government, you are the problem and you have little or no time to fix this situation. You all have failed the citizens of this beautiful country. It's become unaffordable. That's from Mr. H. Peters of Kales River. Okay, and now I'm coming to what my views are. I'm now on this platform to ask also the regulator ministers, ESCOM, to please reconsider. You have at your disposal various options, and that we in the community, we don't have all the access to that. I'm sure you could try and find alternative measurements to not grant this ESCOM that ESCOM now wants, and that in the near future we don't have the financial measures, and to put in a moratorium on this tariff hikes. The unemployed men and women are all suffering. There's ill-aged people living below the breadline, and kids can sometimes tell you, I've only had porridge in the morning and they haven't eaten again. There's no sometimes hot water to wash even the sick people at home, and poverty have definitely increased. There's been an increase in this electricity for a lot of years now, and people are having less cooked meals. Even the young children under 5s, you can see they look terribly small. They are not even having the correct amount of milk that they should have, because they have to buy electricity. They have to divide that little money they have. Some babies are having at least 2 or 1 milk bottle per day, so that they can stretch the milk for the children. Primary schools, you can look at the growth of the children, and there's not a day go by either that people looking to borrow money for electricity and also asking, please boil me some water or just make a baby's bottle, because some of them run out of electricity, and then they'll have to ask the neighbors. And some people, you can see they find it difficult to ask people. Some don't even ask, and they don't have. I say people are using other methods, and some are dangerous, and even what they can say is they don't have what the people who's got financial stability have, that they'll put something on the geysers, because most of the geysers are off anyway now. And what about the renewables? There are people in the suburbs, they are using all these new things to save themselves also, and that's what the people in the cash-strapped communities doesn't have. Yet at the same time, the food prices are also rising, and what was I going to say now also? ESCOM has had now so long time. You've gone through trillions and trillions of rands, and what about the huge companies and the mines and all the bigger clients that you had they are all using now different forms of energies because they can afford it. And that's not what the people on the communities on the Cape Flats can afford. Please, Eskom, you need to get out of your air-conditioned offices. You need to cut down on your traveling expenses, your petrol, whatever third packages you get or whatever. You need to cut costs, and you need to look at how you do your balancing of your company. You must run your company at a profitable, but not at our expense. Now you're going to come back every time and ask for money, more money, more money. What are you really doing to cut down and to give us some affordable energy? And yeah, that's what some senior people are really struggling. And I don't think by standing here and bringing this to you, I think most of you know what's happening in the communities. The down spiraling of lives, the way the life in the communities on the flats, Cape Flats, it's very, very downhill. And with this tariff hikes, I'm afraid it's gonna go worse. It will only go worse. Thank you for giving us this chance to come and speak here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All present.
All right. Any? The next one? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much. All protocol observed. This is not the first time that I'm standing here in front of NERSA and ESCOM representing the community. In 2015, I was in Joburg representing the Western Cape, and we were talking about the same thing. I don't know what is happening with ESCOM. Why every time, every year they are doing the same thing? And we as pensioners, we don't have money, people. We are struggling. And I'm staying in one of the oldest townships in the Western Cape called Ikukuletu. I'm standing here today as a pensioner and a community leader, speaking under the umbrella of Project 90 by 30. Every time NERSA is having their hearings, we as the community are giving our views of the difficulties we are finding ourselves in. As the poorest of the poor, we find ourselves on the unsafe side of using alternatives like paraffin stove, e-heater, candles, and that is very dangerous. You can't leave those things and go outside. Coming back, maybe your house is burning up. Pensioners are using, some of us are using coal because we grew up, our parents were using coal. And that was to keep our house warm. In winter, it was very, very cold. There was no other way. So we have to use paraffin, namalal. Some of our pensioners must go in the bush for inkun, and they are being robbed or raped or being killed. Because why? There's no other way. They don't have money to buy electricity. Electricity is very expensive in these days now. And we as pensioners, we are only getting 2,190. And most our money is going to electricity. We are asking Nessa, please. It's not the first time. Every time we are standing here preaching one thing over and over and again. Please, please, please rethink this thing of increasing ESCOM's plea. Every year, why can't we think about the poorest of the poor? We must look after our children. Our children don't get work because there is no work for them. Even their children, we must put something on the table to keep them alive. Yeah. I'm sorry, we as the pensioners are basically living on the brink of poverty. If NASA is not taking serious the results will be devastating. Please, NASA. In a new location in Kukuletu. And the area that I'm staying in is not even registered. We are using electricity. But when you are buying electricity for 10 rand, you only get 4 units. As a pensioner, I'm pleading again, Nessa, you are the mouth of the community. You are the mouth of the poorest of the poor. Please, please, tell these people, ESCOM, they must stop doing what they are doing now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. As I'm standing here on behalf of senior citizen of Kukuletu under the umbrella of Project 90 by 30. I am here today to share how tariff increase affecting our senior citizen in Cooks and my family rights. Now the electricity price as it is, we struggle to pay for the basics. We struggle to pay for the basic needs like food, school fees, healthcare. That was impacted by increasing of electricity, which caused the dignity of our families. Because if I say that child won't go there, you ask me question, why mama don't do have a sugar but we have a grant? Thinking that the senior citizens grant, that's money, that's not money. In other words, you ESCOM depriving our dignity at our community. And another thing, our grandchildren, they can't understand why don't have the money. Because they are in a dynamic stage whereby they can't understand there is no food. We as a senior citizen of Kukuletu, we are demanding transparency and accountability from ESCOM. Our community can no longer carry the burden of mismanagement and rises of cost. We're here today to tell NESA that these hikes, they don't just affect numbers of paper. They disrupt our lives and our grandchildren's life. And keeping the light on. As grannies, we are stepping up to hold ESCOM accountable. We deserve affordability in the future, not another round of unaffordable increases. People cannot afford the increase. We plead from NEFSA, ESCOM, please decrease the amount of electricity from the pensioners. And we got a proposal as a senior citizen. We don't want to come and sit here again just for coffee and cakes. And for the rent, what they pay from here, tariffs, and after that, we must increase your electricity. Prefer to pay delicious entertainment on our costs. Come down to Guguletu. We don't want to be here. Come down to Guguletu and hear our needs as Guguletu senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the community of Guguletu, Mitchell's Plain, and the other communities. You have now taken your time. We've exhausted. We only left with 1 minute, hoping that there will be questions. We granted you 20 minutes for your presentations. I would like now to check if there are any questions from the members of the team. Nothing from yours. All right. It looks like there are no questions even from our first. But the one thing that I want to assure you is that we've heard your strong messages that you conveyed today, and the issues of affordability, issues of transparency and accountability. I think those are the things, obviously, that we are really going to take into account. Yes, we understand all of the challenges that are happening, facing the country, facing communities, facing ESCOM, and the most difficult task that the energy regulator, NERSA, has to undertake in balancing all of these interests. It is not easy, but also we must follow the law in what we do. The one other thing that I have just observed and which I wanted to ask from you is whether the issue of energy affects women of your communities more than it affects men, because in your representation today I don't see any men there. Or are you just representing them? They are not affected. It's because you are in the kitchen, you are cooking, you take all the stress, and it shows how the issues of energy and women are supposed to be looked into. I just want to check that whether in your community you don't have men that are involved and also can take the pressure and all of that. Or are you the ones that are paying the bills for electricity and have to make sure that there's food you have to cook, and men just wait there waiting for you to bring the food?
Thank you for the question you questioned for us. There are men, as you understand, we are the ones who are always there on the ports. And on the other hand, you must know the men, they don't want to pay. They're always in a denying stage. But when they come home, they need a plate of food. Not knowing that plate of food, where that plate of food coming from. That's why today you are seeing women, because the men, they don't want a truth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we thank you for your time. Thank you very much. But on a serious note, the issues of energy affect everyone if you look at you as an individual, and also women. So it's something that we need to observe at NERSA. The CEO is here looking at the program for women at NERSA. Thank you very much. All right, we are going to take one more presenter before we break for lunch, and that is Safsei. Please, if you can come forward and deliver your presentation. If you can please adjust the mic. All right, thank you very much. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to give to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. May you please state your name, your designation?
Mishka Murat, Campaigns Officer at SAFC.
All right, you may start with your presentation. You've got 10 minutes.
SAFC is a multi-faith organization committed to supporting faith communities in Southern Africa. Energy justice and the negative health and socio-economic impacts of energy poverty, along with environmentally sustainable use of resources, are some of SAFC's key concerns. Our overarching concerns. The MYPD is a narrow and outdated response to the energy crisis in South Africa. The methodology makes it difficult to challenge Eskom's unaffordable price increases in a meaningful or legal way, undermining public participation. SAFC is calling for a review of electricity pricing methodologies and the electricity supply system. The Electricity Regulation Act mandates NERSA safeguarding the needs of customers and facilitating universal access to electricity. Electricity is an important contributor to socio-economic development. NERSA and Eskom should be supporting policies for affordability of electricity. SAFC thereby objects strongly to Eskom's proposed 36.15% tariff hike. Anything above a 10% increase is unreasonable. Costs that should not be loaded onto the general tariff. The RCA, the clawback mechanism. This inefficiency should not be added to the tariff. This is reduced by 4%. The debt repayments. The NPA. This subsidy should be supported by DTI rather than consumers in the tariff. This is another 10%. The RAB, another inefficiency inflated by cost overruns of power plants, 7.9%. The carbon tax, this should be added to the energy intensive user group, not general tariffs, this is 1.6%. The role of Eskom linked to the National Development Plan. The increasingly unaffordable rates of Eskom electricity is in contradiction with the NDP's plan to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality. Eskom is not considering the impacts of tariff increase on low-income households, nor on local authorities trapped in debt spirals. NPAs given to the EIUG, there's a lack of transparency in this process, which contradicts the Energy Regulatory Act, Section 15, that states that tariffs must avoid undue discrimination between customer categories. What is the role of Eskom when it provides cheaper electricity to big business at what appears to be a cost to domestic customers? Unaffordability of Eskom. The 36.15% increase from 1 April 2025, followed by 11.81% and 9.10% in the following years to recoup its cost. The tariff hike is in the order of 43% for local authorities, impacting other basic delivery. An alternative funding model needs to be developed urgently to stop the debt burden on municipalities, households, and businesses, as well as to ensure the future of Eskom. Is the MYPD methodology fit for purpose? SAFC has been calling for a review of electricity pricing systems. We argue that the MYPD model and Eskom's cost of service calculations are no longer fit for determining future tariffs. Problems with the MYPD. The RCA uses subsidized poor performance in forecasting and performance by Eskom, and the RIB inflated by corruption and mismanagement. Both the RCA and the RAB impose costs on customers that are the result of inefficiency and imprudent mismanagement. Our recommendations. First, affordable energy as a basic human right in the Constitution, which protects against excessive electricity tariffs. The urgent revision of electricity pricing policies. Governmental agencies to re-evaluate pro-poor energy policies and strategies. To rework the FBE system, ring-fenced funds. VAT from electricity should be allocated to the FBE. A shift from complete dependence on government to locally appropriate cooperative strategies within communities and local businesses that promote affordable, reliable energy access. Involvement of state actors in consultation with provisional and local administrations and the people of South Africa. Review of the role of Eskom and of the principle of Eskom's COS reflective tariff model for a genuine just energy transition. Alternatives to mainstream tied electricity should be a part of just energy transition. Relationship between the energy intensive user group and Eskom must be reviewed. Additional comments? Tariff increases have lost legitimacy with the public. We've been asked to tighten your belts one last time. Our current energy crisis, the supply and affordability, is rooted in the failure of a number of governmental departments to act over the years. Energy provision in transition across the entire supply chain. Energy pricing policies need to be reviewed without further delay. Leaders are amplifying calls for affordable energy. Finally, Eskom has sent its retail tariff plan to NERSA for comment, proposing the removal of inclining block tariff. This links to the 36.15% tariff increase. Low-income households won't be subsidized for first block of electricity they buy. In the absence of an efficient pro-poor electricity supply mechanism, the 36.15% increase is an unacceptable burden on low-income households.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to check if there are any questions from the members of the panel. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, all right. This side, any question? Mr. Mkhize, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks for the presentation, ma'am. You spoke of the 10% increase, which is loud and clear, saying that anything greater than 10% is unreasonable. I just would like to get an understanding, maybe why not 12, just to get around that. But the rest of the issues that you're raising are significant, and I think it would help if you can also flag that with policymakers. Have a two-pronged approach. Thank you.
Yes, just hold on. Did you take down the question?
I did.
All right.
If it's okay with you, I will
Just
relay.
hold on. Just hold on, ma'am. Please take another question. Then we're doing the round of questions. Yes, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, you mentioned that the RCA is giving a 4% increase. Can you just guide me to which part of the document has that RCA being a 4% increase? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. You may now respond to the questions.
Thank you. I have noted down the questions and I will relay this to my team and consult with them and get back to you if that's fine with the panel.
That is fine. Yes. All right. Thank you for your time. All right. Thank you. At this point in time, I think it's we're supposed to have taken lunch at 12. It is now 17 minutes past 12. I would like us to take lunch. Instead of taking 40 minutes, can we take 30 minutes, please? Right? Okay. All right. So we'll be back here. What